Welcome to another Tuesday Live podcast with your host, Jen and Joe Delafaith.
Hi, everybody.
Today, we're going to be talking with my wife and myself. Real estate investors, homeschool, mom and dads, right? Doing deals, have a couple people on our team.
Just a couple,
right? But today, we're going to be talking about some really cool stuff. And I would say this has been one of the biggest game changers. So you guys are in for a great episode today. And that's the power of masterminds. And how important that is for you or anybody else. And dialing back, when I first learned about the power of mastermind, it was from Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, back there. Oh,
back there. Where that talks about the power of mastermind and actually, having multiple people coming around, focusing on the same goals, and the possibilities almost feel endless when you're around the right people.
Yeah. And I think that, even in Napoleon Hill, if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, it's a game changer. A lot of people think that it's difficult to read. And I can admit it can be at times, but if you are in a place where you want to get to that next level, you need to sit down and read that book and it will speak to you. And like Joe's saying, like you create your mastermind. What happens is his brain and my brain essentially created a third brain. And when I reread that book in 2020, it was like night and day of what happened with our business, going from just Jen and Joe owning a couple of rentals to going full time and starting to run a team, eventually moving to Florida. And now we have multiple businesses and, living honestly a dream life, which was possible because we took the time to work on ourselves. So yes, if you're reading Think and Grow Rich, definitely game changer. I would recommend reading it. It's one that you can listen to, but I thought that, having the actual book was super important. So let's talk masterminds. So there's like a difference between coaching, mentoring, consulting, I guess, and then mastermind. So we want to kind of break that down and, feel free to chime in the comments and ask questions, because when we first started, we were just like everyone. Well, you weren't like everyone else. You were watching VHS tapes and reading books and trying to, hodgepodge things together from a buddy's course that you borrowed. Luckily, the course was Ron the Grand, so it was amazing content in there. And you did that deal in 2000?
Yeah, 24 years ago. But there wasn't a mastermind back then. So the only
there
mastermind
might have been, but like you wouldn't know about it.
Not that I knew. I
Yeah.
mean, there wasn't people posting it on Google. There really wasn't social media. I don't even think Friendster was out, like nothing. So we're going to go back, okay?
Ooh, Facebook.
So the only thing that I noticed for me was my mastermind was resourcing back to these audio cassette tapes or the VCR tapes in the book and just trying to piece together what it said and just take that action and kind of also use that little bit of space between your ears, your brain, and figure some of this out too. Ask other people.
Well, I think too, even before you stumbled upon Ron's stuff, which we got to get that in here just to like keep showing everybody what a VHS tape is.
But like, I don't know what that means, guys.
And a cassette tape. But the cassette tapes, that was something where prior to real estate, you started working on yourself. So you didn't go to college like I did, where I had to like go pay professors and learn about oceanography at 8 a.m. in the morning because it's super prevalent. Actually, I wish I paid attention now that I need to know about El Nino, but either way, you were buying cassette tapes and plugging in to personal development back in like the late 90s.
Yeah. So I got lucky enough to have a job. Didn't go to high school. I chickened out. Didn't want to be a chiropractor, touching people for the rest of my life. So I signed up for college, but never went. Like skipped first day, never went. So now I'm trying to find out who's Joe. I think that's the biggest question in all of our lives. Like, who are we? What's our purpose? Like, what are we here for? I just happened to get lucky enough to stumble upon working for this really wealthy man who had the same type of opportunity brought to him. He was working at a gas station pumping gas. And Earl Nightingale, if you don't know who that is, Google that name. But Earl Nightingale happened to be in Mobile, Alabama, driving through, stopped at the gas station. The rest is history. They met, gave him a card, says, come work with me, because my coach, my mentor, was pumping gas. Well, I ended up working for this guy like way later in life. Now he's, super wealthy, doing amazing things. Huge education for me, just working and watching how he handled his businesses. And it's from sitting in a Rolls Royce, you're like, oh my gosh, this is life changing from growing up a poor kid where, my parents' car break down on the side of the road and you're stuck.
Yeah.
Now I'm driving in a $400,000 Rolls Royce. Few years later, it was really eye-opening to me because, like, how did he get there? Never went to college. So I learned everything I can, but he always says, you can't just learn from me. You need to continue to always reinvest back into yourself. He said, buy the books, buy the cassette tapes, listen to them, the Zig Ziglars. This is back when Tony Robbins really wasn't even like himself yet. And he was still just coming out with his first content. I had it. It was really awesome. And so many other wonderful, Dale Carnegie. There's so many other great things out there. And I would listen to the audio cassette tapes. And I'd have to go to Barnes and Noble and see what they had in stock. And whatever they had, I'd have to find the best 1 or 2 or 3, and I'd buy them. And my old job was I traveled all over the country. So anytime, I was always in my car, always listening. So that was helpful. But anytime I was ever next to a Barnes and Noble, I always stopped. And so I had a huge, like, plastic, like, tote full of these audio cassette tapes because there wasn't enough, like, things to hold them all in. And I would just go find out, like, my favorite 10, throw my console, and I'd always be listening to them and just cycle through them for years. So I think that's what started it.
Well, it really was. And I wanted to bring it back there because you've always been pouring money into yourself. Maybe you didn't really realize the profound effect it was going to have on your life, but I didn't even do that, right? Like, I was going the traditional route of going to college. And so I'm buying these expensive, heavy textbooks and I'm learning everything that I need to learn about and then some to go become an English teacher. But then I meet you in 2008 and you took me to Barnes & Noble because I love Barnes & Noble, right? But it was the first time where you were like, no, find something that speaks to you, because I had in my head self-help books. Like, those are for people who need help. Like,
well,
why
I'll do.
Like, why do I'm perfect. Like, I don't need to listen to that. Like, I didn't want to think like you didn't think I was good enough. And that wasn't the case at all, because the first thing you ever made me listen to was
100 Ways to Motivate Yourself by Steve Chandler,
which is totally free on YouTube. So if you're listening, write that down. 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself, Steve Chandler. It's the best.
You could legitimately get I mean, I have the audio cassette tape. I think I bought it twice because the first one either got stolen or broke. So I had the second time I bought the same tape. I still have it.
And in 2008, you burned me a CD.
Oh, I did. So, but now I found it on YouTube, guys. You could get it for free, all the things I used to buy. But that was life-changing, that one to me.
Yeah.
And there was many others that I gathered a lot of great things from. Master Key to Riches, Napoleon Hill. So many of the old classics were just kind of like redone lately under new things. And this is why I fall back to a lot of just being an open-minded person and always try to better yourself. And this is what I learned from Johnny. And if somebody who I wanted to be like, mega wealthy, although another story. But from being the ultra successful from where he grew up was really something that was eye-opening to me. So I said, well, if he tells me to do that and that's going to help me get there, that's what I'm going to go do. So that was the big key to me. That's why I got myself in that real estate course years later.
Yeah.
And I just did what it said, because I think I was learning from audio cassette. So this was just another tape to listen to while I was in the car. So I listened to this. I'm like, I need to go do this. Like, holy cow, this is a big check waiting to happen.
Yeah. And again, it's that mindset shift of knowing like we're always in growth mode. You've never mastered it all. Like, eventually maybe master Key to Riches, but like, you're still like, there's always another level and there's always people to learn from. So in order to even get yourself in a room that you're going to pay lots of money for, like a mastermind, which we're going to get to and talk about more, you need to start with some of that free content and really work on your mindset to understand why you're going to want to pay at a high level to get into a room with some of these individuals and what that's going to do for you. Because if you don't have your mindset right, meaning if you're a victim mentality, so it won't work for me, or I can't do that, or I'm not spending that kind of money, and you're just kind of talking yourself out of it, then you're right. Like, it's a Henry Ford theory.
Well, and I think it's true, because what does it really truly take to not just be good at it, but to truly master something? This is like decades plural to actually master. I mean, I've been doing this for a while. I don't feel like I'm still a student, and I don't know if I'll ever feel like I'm a master, but I always feel like, because I'm always growing, I'm always still learning. And I think that was the one thing is I always learned that if you say you're the best and you're not going to get any better, then you're already getting passed up. You probably just don't recognize it yet.
Yeah, you're kind of putting yourself in a weird spot there. But...
So that's what we learned from. So what do? Is we knew that we needed to be around other successful people, and see what's making these people tick.
And the crazy thing was, so obviously 2008, we were just buying one rental at a time. Well, really, it was like a fixer-upper, and we were burring and didn't know it. I didn't know it. And then in 2016, you stumble into Ron again, into Ron's world on YouTube, but it was a higher level where it wasn't really making a whole lot of sense for you. That like you were, I kind of get it, but like we need more hands-on approach to it.
Well, like I could see the idea of the picture, but there was like a whole bunch of missing pieces to that puzzle still there. That the things that you can't learn on Facebook, where the success, true success, comes in some of the small details that either sometimes they get looked over. They might talk about it on YouTube and Facebook. I know we do, but there's so many times there might be some other things happen where you need that little piece to put in there. And so that's where I looked at Jen back in 2016 and said, okay, this is definitely what we want to do. You know, either it's not what I want to do or completely, yes, this is what I want to do. And to buy real estate without banks, without credit, with really not a whole lot of cash, not that 20% down, many times it's $100 down plus closing costs, right? So once I knew that's what I wanted to do, I'm like, okay, I'm 100% all in. I convinced Jen to go spend a whole lot of money hiring a coach to teach us how to fill in those missing pieces. Right?
And so if you're looking, how do you win your spouse over? You take her to her favorite restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
You buy her a really fancy dinner, probably one of her favorites.
Good glass of wine or two.
Good glass of champagne or wine. We were at the Revelry, I'll name drop, in Rochester, New York. And we were down at the bar, and that's where you like sprung this on me. And I was like, how much and what? You know, so.
Dan, you remember that part?
Of course I remember. And I'm like, how do we pay for that? You know, we've got all this other stuff going on, and we've got 2 little kids, and you're never home.
I got to do a quick disclaimer. My wife's memory is like the World Book of Knowledge. And not only, she'll probably even tell you like what she wore that night.
I can't go that back.
Sometimes you do. It's pretty impressive. So that's neat that you even know where we had that initial talk.
Well, but you were very prepared. You were like, well, we'll be able to, they had like a special card or whatever we were doing. And we'll sign up for a private mentor. That was the first time where we spent more than a couple $100.
Like you could have bought a car.
Yeah. So that was for one-on-one, 6 months. Half hour, we'd get 30 minutes every single week. So you bet we took that 30 minutes super seriously.
So if you think about it, we had 13 hours that we paid that much money.
My brain doesn't work like that. I can remember like conversations.
6 months, half-hour phone calls. If you do the math there, we were paying for basically, I mean, like you weren't getting a whole ton of information, more than 13 hours, but you were really like,
that was just the coaching aspect. We then paid extra to get all of the agreements, the online login, the forums, and like all the Ask Ron stuff. So like it wasn't like we just woke up one day and like we learned all this on YouTube. Look at us. Like no, it was a bit, and it wasn't like that one dinner like sold me either. I'm sure there were conversations, and then you get into it and you're like, holy cow, like what are we doing? And so that was just the beginning of it. But the point is, like, we stuck it out. I believe in him. And the goal, this is where I was going, is maybe we have a Facebook user saying he's tried this technique, but it's not working. It was the shared vision. And the shared vision, since I've met my husband, with that, we wanted to spend more time together, quality time. Because I hated getting up early and having to go to work and then get home at like 4, but then he's working till 10. And he's got this day off, and I had that, and we just never saw each other.
Yeah. And then yesterday, it's Monday morning. Jen comes out. I'm sitting in the back patio getting work done, and she was all about something. I don't even know what it was. And I'm like, if you stop and take a look at what we're doing right now, I'm in the back patio talking to you about work. Our kids are in the pool, and it's Monday.
Yeah.
And here we are living in Florida now. So our days do look a lot different now, but it didn't just happen overnight.
Yeah.
And I really think it started back with that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
My wife being open-minded to at least know, like, hey, let's give this a try, because if we win, we both win. Mm-hmm. Right. And I knew for sure, living the American dream of having just a job, which stands for just over broke. I don't care how much money you make or don't make, you're just over broke when you have a job. Especially if that's your only source of income. So with that being the case, I would see in my office when I worked at a car dealership, many times people were coming in to buy a car, filling out their credit application, and I'm looking at their income, I'm looking at their credit, I'm looking at their debt, I'm looking at their life situation. I'm like, oh my gosh, how is this happening so frequently? It opened my eyes to know I need to have a side business going, to also have another source of income, and then hopefully that will outgrow what I was making at my job to where I can't afford to go back to work anymore.
Mhm.
And, I think it was really finding out what other people had done right in front of us and those successful steps that they took to get them to where they are to help us get there much faster. I don't want to have to wait 50, 60 years of doing something to master it. But, if
Mhm.
you're around the right people, you can get that done, I think, sooner.
Absolutely. And the right people, like it takes some trial and effort. Sometimes you'll get into a round of people and you think that they're the right fit. And then you're like, that's not really with like the trajectory I want to go. And so you just switch gears, right? You're not married to anybody but your spouse. So we always approach it like that. So we didn't really have any mastermind. That's what we're talking about here today. I would say we started an actual mastermind itself, like an official paid for one was 2020.
Yep.
And so we did the one-on-one coaching and did some other mentoring, especially with social media marketing, which obviously I fell in love with, and that started growing our business. But it was the power of getting in a group of people together that I think was really important, because we signed up and we'd meet once a week and it was helpful. But then when you're in a room with other people doing the same thing, that's so impactful, because they ask questions that maybe you didn't quite think about, or you had the question and maybe forgot to ask. But one thing I did not like about that mastermind, do you remember what it was?
The one thing you didn't like
The
about
one thing that was so frustrating, we had adapted the abundance mindset.
Oh, yes.
And we had just started accidentally buying in Pennsylvania. And our coaches at the time said, well, we have one person buying in Pennsylvania, so you guys can't buy in Pennsylvania, but if you do, you can't talk about it. And we were like, it's
The
an
whole
entire state. Like, there's so many people. Like, we can't possibly help every person that lives in Pennsylvania. And from there, but we took that. We learned to never say those things, right? Because there's so many people to be helped.
Well, and that's where I think it became the abundance mindset. You and I had that because this is something really cool that we found out. And I remember when I first found out about this, I'm telling my wife, I just discovered fire. I'm like, holy cow, babe. Wait till you won't. Oh my God. I'm losing my mind. I was so excited. My poor wife. And if she dealt with all the date nights of me talking about this stuff at a fancy restaurant when we should have been talking about how much we love each other, saw something. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't some get rich quick overnight scheme, but it was a successful way to buy real estate. And when I saw this, my head exploded with so many whys. So once we started doing it and then getting some of these amazing results, buying houses, $100 down, having properties that we could buy with a 0% mortgage, and buying turnkey houses, not ones that had to have major renovations. And when you're buying a turnkey house, my gosh, those are really quick and easy. Those are my favorite houses. And we still buy some of these fixer-uppers. Got one in Pensacola. Got the guy there actually right now. High five to that.
Oh, good.
But either way, so those were some of my favorite deals we were finding. Once I found this out, this was too good not to share. So when we were going to small real estate meetups back in Rochester, New York, I'm explaining to people before work, guys, my job started at 8:30 in the morning. So I would have to leave my house at 6:30 in the morning to be at an event at 7 o'clock in the morning, just to be there for an hour, to sprint all the way back across side town to be at work, just barely to get there on time. But I was doing that before work to meet with other real estate investors, to listen to see what they were doing.
Yeah, that was 2019.
To network, to network
way
with
before
them.
Creative financing is well known as it is now, for sure.
And I'm telling people back then, hey guys, I found this way of how to buy real estate without banks and credit. And they're looking at me what are you even talking about?
I feel like people still look like that.
Well, that's fine. They can. But at least when I was on that topic, I was really, and I was probably saying it to where it was a little confusing because I was just learning a lot of it myself.
Right.
But it started catching on. And I think that was the neat thing about it, was sharing others where we were finding some success. Because many of those people back in that same group now have either done one of these deals or are trying to do these deals and trying to implement these, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So that's when we start really finding the value of masterminds. And now we're in some ourselves, right? We have one coming up at the end of this month in Tampa that they do twice a year. It's not ours, but we're part of it. It's called the Family Mastermind, ran by Matt Andrews. Shout out Matt Andrews and everybody inside the family. Let me tell you, absolutely one of the...
Again, I was like, what are we doing? This sounds a little... I was thinking it was a little crazy because it's not cheap, but holy moly. So if you have those thoughts, I'm like, gosh, it's a lot of money. Will it pay off? Yes, if you put in the work and you do what you're supposed to, it always does.
Well, and we have to talk about why we even go to these and what do we do after
So
these
what did
events?
provoke you to want to join this one?
So I think it starts at the top. Matt Andrews, I've seen him around in Facebook. I've seen him around on the social media, and he had a great presence around him. His group had a great thing about them. And they're very big on abundance mindset too. And the one thing that I always loved about Matt Andrews was they have a contest inside of their mastermind of who could give the most.
Yeah.
And it's not whoever gives the least wins. No, you're the loser if you give the least. It's all about giving the most.
Mhm.
How can I give back to this amazing group? And so when we found that we're in this mastermind where there's super amazing people, and I'm talking about like some of the top real estate investors, authors, CEOs, like you name this guy or girl, they're probably in this mastermind. It's that awesome. And to be like sitting next to some of these people, and they're not even speakers, they're just in the audience because that's who this is. I knew I wanted to be a part of that.
Mhm.
I knew I needed to be a part of that. So it started with Matt being awesome. And then everybody inside this group that we've met, it's been a pleasure. And we've done business with a lot of the folks. We've made a lot of great friendships inside the mastermind too. And I could just only imagine where this just keeps opening up more things and more opportunities.
And I think too, like one of the biggest things that we try to do, I know I do, is kind of set an intention for before we go. Like, what is like a couple of goals, or what is your intentions here? Like, who are you looking to connect with? Because you get into some of these masterminds, and there's a lot of people, and it's hard to get to every single person. So you really have to pick a couple, and there's dinner opportunities and whatnot. But really, planning before you go and kind of say, like, where am I at my business, and which business really, and what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? So you do have questions and people you want to connect with, but then also on the same token, like Joe was saying, like, what can I give? Like, what knowledge is like my superpower? What can I help people with? And you almost want to like generate that list. And it's not being braggy, because I also just went to a women's retreat mastermind, and she did the same thing. Shout out to Heather Blankenship. She had an ask and a give, and every woman had to write on a Post-it note something they could give someone else, and an ask, like, what is it that you could be helped with? And I thought that was so beautiful, because now people can connect with you. So, thinking about your strengths, and I hate to say weaknesses, but like, what spot do you want to improve, right? We all can improve. And so just having those reflections, and then being able to go there and say, okay, like, this is where I need to work on some stuff.
Well, and that's what I always love is, see your old friends, people you've already made friends with, see them, continue to talk great things, and, opportunities and all sorts of just great conversations happen when you're around the right people. And then always go with the intention of meeting new friends, and you never know. That's what I love this. I mean, I'm not going to be like that guy, but I'm going to. So the one night we're at the dinner, and I see Jen sitting next to this lady, and she just looks like some like sweet, like, I don't know, like the grandma next door. I mean, that's what she looked like. Guys, and then you talk to her.
She was sweet.
She was so sweet. But then you talk to her, and she's a complete baller. Like, powerhouse to where like my jaw hits the ground. I'm like, holy cow, Jen, move over. I need to sit next to her and talk to her. And I was
like, nope, she's mine.
I don't mean any disrespect at all. This is a compliment when I say it's like the grandma look, but she's just like a normal looking person, but doing amazing rock star things, lending money, developments, owns tons of commercial and residential, like big money. Been doing it for a long time. And so that's where you go.
So humble. So you wouldn't ever know until you talk to her.
No, baller. So when we're sitting around these people, it's like everybody. I remember in one of the rooms we had a breakout session, and we're doing some deals, nothing too crazy. There's plenty of people that doing way more deals than we are, and that's fine. I'm not trying to set the world record. But then there's this guy sitting next to me, and he's wearing just like a baseball bat and a flannel. He's like, yeah, last year they closed like 1,100 deals. And I was like, wait, you're doing like almost 100 deals a month? He's like, well, now because the market dropped, we need to increase that to make the same money. So he's like, we might do like 1,300 deals. I'm like, geez, like, that's a lot. So, I mean, that's the
But you don't need to be there to go to these. You just need to be you and authentic, and then you'll grow, and you'll kind of find the right people. Again, if you would set your intentions properly, and then kind of figure out like where it is you want to go.
Yeah. And I will say, the one thing that is, you are so right. Don't go to these events trying to peacock.
No.
If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about.
Maybe explain, because I didn't know that term until you
These
explained.
are not peacocking events where you all have all your feathers out and you're all strutting around about how great you are. That's not what these events are. You don't go there to brag because you are not the biggest fish in the sea, and that's the kind of sea you want to be in. You don't want to be the big one.
And if you are that guy, everybody else tells you, like, talks about that person. Like, oh, he's the guy you need to talk to.
Yeah.
And you'll hear that name like over and over again until you're like, I need to go talk to this guy because he's the man. And when you meet him, he's just like the sweetest, nicest guy, and you'd never know.
Shout out, Tom. But that's what it was, guys. So you always just go there with the intentions of just having a great time. Be genuine as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Don't be anything that you're not. Be everything that you are. And then figure a way to give back and network and meet and make those relationships. Because like you said the other day, we had questions with our bookkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And Jen had to just have that conversation, but because of how we landed in that bookkeeper, I'm not saying you name dropped, but you kind of did have to use a little bit of oil in there. And guess what? I mean, all of a sudden, everything got done.
One of my good friends, she's not necessarily in real estate, but somebody I've always admired and looked up. Shout out Sam Saget, now married, Hauser. But she told me a long time ago, she goes, you pay to play. I was like, what does that even mean? And I was like, pay to play.
Mm-hmm.
And all that means is like you're paying money to kind of get in that room and, like, in a sense, play, but like chat, network, talk. When you need someone, like, they're there to help you. But like that means like you're all in it at that similar level of like, I'm taking this kind of life so seriously, because most people will not be in these rooms, right? Like, let's be honest. Like, most people, the average person is not tuning into this live in the middle of the day and trying to better themselves. Most people are not listening to the audiobooks. Most people are
trying to find their next Netflix series.
Right. Like, I can't even tell you what's happening in the world today. No, a little bit. But, the point being is, like, you have to be different to achieve these results. And so to have these networked connections, it does help so much, because even today, who called you? Who are you on the phone with?
Oh, Brent Daniels calling me. And these are guys and girls that I would watch before and be like, wow, isn't it so cool? And now, like, just call on a Tuesday to ask a couple questions.
Like, oh, Brent Daniels is calling me, right? But like a few years ago, like, if you said that, it would have been like, yeah, okay.
Stop it right now, right? But that's what it was.
He wouldn't even had your number.
No.
But now, because of the work we're putting in, the masterminds we're attending, you're in it, right? So.
And here's the thing, I look back now. So if this is like next level for you and you're not there yet, you just start at one thing at a time, because what we pay right now for just 1 year, if you think about it, for our coaching because we always have a great coach that we're working with, and he's amazing, plus the masterminds that we're a part of, and then all of the other things that we're a part of. I mean, we invest a lot into ourselves. I mean, you're talking, it's not cheap. Back when I first started, if you told me that we were going to spend this much, I would have thought you're absolutely crazy. But you would have been spot on, because we see the value in it. And so learning from some of these masterminds of things that, like, hey, I didn't like this one, or I liked it and I got some good things from it. And then you're going to find some other ones that just floor you away. And you're like, oh my gosh, these are my favorite. And no matter what, like, that's blocked off. We're going. And that's what's fun. Plus we host a live event right in Florida now every month, which is awesome, because we are now meeting people boots on the ground and making a lot of good connections there too, and running to rock stars. And then we have other ones that we go to, right? So we love to just network, and you never know, because many of these people that we just bumped into, now we're doing deals together, we're doing business together, and we're making differences. And that's what's been, I think, really cool, because we have one, next
March
week?
19th. So because we're going to family, we had to bump it up.
So ours that we're hosting here is March 19th.
March 19th, and we don't even have a Facebook event yet, but it is coming up. So it is not a mastermind, but it is a networking event where you can come, have a drink, have a chat, and we can, help point you in the right direction of what it is you're looking for. I think last last week? Yeah, I guess it was a week ago. Holy cow.
Was it really?
Yeah, last Tuesday. Right?
Get it, girl.
We had our meetup, and we had people that I've met online years ago that are doing a lot of lot of deals or doing a lot of great things. But, we still were able to help each other and connect on a couple of different items there. So you just have to put yourself out there and make the time. People were driving hours, and it still blows my mind. But, sometimes people, they know that if I just drive, and Florida's a little nutty with traffic, but like, a couple hours and you get yourself in the right room, like it might have just saved you $10,000 on a deal, or help you actually qualify a tenant buyer, or not have to take any more bank loans out because holy cow, you just discovered fire like Joe did.
Well, and I think about one. So we go to this one in Tampa. It's like about an hour drive once you fight through all the traffic. This time of year, snowbirds everywhere on the road. So if your GPS says, hey, this is like 15 miles, it's going to take you like an hour. Not really, probably.
Yeah.
But we go to this one in Tampa. This was last summer. And we end up networking with a lot of investors there, meeting everybody. Well, one of them shares on his Facebook or Instagram post how he has a lead, and unfortunately, he's going to have to throw it away because the lady owes too much on his property.
I felt bad. He made a reel about how wholesalers, this is not a deal. And he was 100% spot on. It was not a wholesale deal.
But it was an amazing creative finance deal on that lead he was throwing away because they didn't recognize it.
I mean, he even had the address out there and everything. So he ended up taking down that reel because we ended up partnering and JVing on it.
And did a really nice deal. This lady had a 2.8% interest rate, had a 3-unit in Maryland. Her payment with everything included was like $1,900, and it was like collecting $4,000 a month in rent. She just got behind on her payments and, owed too much for selling it half off. But for creative deals, those are what we love. So once Jen was like, pump the brakes, homie. Like, I got an idea what we could do for that deal. And then we got on the phone. Next thing you know, it's like heaven. So, going to these events, you could bump into somebody and make deals. One of our good buddies just shared he made one at our group. He went there and networked with somebody, and they did a deal together too. So you'll never know who you meet. You might do a deal together. It might turn into a business relationship of other sorts. And that's the key to going to these groups. And sometimes you have to spend some money. Sometimes there's other events, but you got to put yourself out there and you get it in return times over and over.
Yeah. So if you guys are like, oh, that's all well and good and you great, you have all this money to go spend on masterminds. Like, you don't have to if you can't afford it yet. And you're not there yet. This quote that you're sharing here on the screen: no mind is complete by itself. It needs contact and association with other minds to grow and expand. So make your own mastermind. Like Joe just said, like if I hadn't connected with Cody was his name, the wholesaler, in person, then maybe I wouldn't have seen his reel on Instagram. And because there's a difference when you find somebody in person and you connect like belly to belly, as our coach says, it's like you actually get to meet the person and you have like a better judge of character. And so like when you're socializing on social media, like, a little bit more rather than just meeting. I mean, you can still do deals just socially, but I don't know. It's really cool when you can get in person with somebody and then
that one only costs $10 to get in. So guys, you could float the $10.
Oh yeah. And like our meetup is totally free. So it might cost you some gas money and some, frustration through Bradenton drivers, but Florida drivers. But other than that, food's on us and grab a beverage. So the point is like, that might be really uncomfortable for you. So but knock down all those walls and don't let money be your excuse. Don't let I'm nervous or I can't bring the kids. Yes, you can. We brought our kids to the Tampa one. We bring our kids to our own meetup. Our kids come with us whenever they possibly need to, and they're really well behaved because that's a priority. We always make sure of that. But don't let that kind of stuff stop you. And when you can stop choosing all of the excuses, even yesterday, I shared a lot about actions over feelings. I felt like doing nothing yesterday, guys. After coming back from a retreat all weekend, I was exhausted. My social battery was totally tapped out. But I had interviews to do. I had my executive assistant I needed to touch base with and do a lot of stuff on there. I had to run the kids to piano class. It just was never ending. And you can rest, but you can't quit. And so when you get rid of all the excuses, it gets a lot easier. And I think that was one of the huge things I learned back when I was a nanny. I don't know if you know that's where that came from. I nannied in the Hamptons one summer, right down the street from Calvin Klein's house, in this baller mansion on the beach. And his name was Robin Lehman. Yes, Lehman Brothers. And he was so against excuses. He was like, either you did or you didn't. That's it.
That's why he was.
And I was like, ever since then, in my teaching, in my life, everything. Like either you did or you didn't. Like I make no excuses. Like it didn't happen. Excuses or not is what it is. So you can make that switch. It really is a game changer too.
And my first boss, if you told him a story, he would light you up. Light you up. I mean, it would make you feel bad. So it was either you did or you didn't. And if you didn't, it wasn't like the excuse why. It was just, I'm sorry, I'm going to do better. Right. But that's really, I think it's having that kind of discipline to put yourself out there, because in this day and age, I think so many of us communicate through social media or through messaging or text that we really don't get face to face as much as we used to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so sometimes it's almost done the opposite, where like, I don't want to go into this big room of people and go talk to them all. And I guess it dials back to how bad you want it.
And we're opposite. So he loves talking to a bunch of people. I can't say it's my favorite thing in the world, but I love the outcome. And I do like talking to people, but like, I don't like small talk, if that makes sense. Like I like to actually like know people. So it takes a lot of energy to get me to go out there and like shake the hand and, you know, give my little 30-second, like who I am, and then ask questions about who these people are. You, it just comes naturally too. So you're looking at
I just love
two different people here.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's different how we even grew up. I mean, I grew up in that neighborhood where like
you're
outside.
Like city,
oh yeah, I'm outside
kids.
Riding bikes, meeting all the kids in the neighborhood, just knocking on doors, like, hey, can you, like, it was like that.
It was me and my two little sisters, and we lived across from a cemetery, so like there was no neighborhood kids at all. Like, and my dog. It was a very like sheltered life, which is fine. But I like being like introverted and alone, but it doesn't get me anywhere. So I just push past it.
And not for nothing, when you're out there, it's not like you could ever tell, because I mean,
I know, but I want to share that. Like people might say like, oh, you just come natural. Like it doesn't. Like I was like, it tapped me out. I was exhausted, but it's so important to do that. And I like what you said too. You know, you go into a room with people, like you really have to like wipe the slate clean. Like don't make any expectations. Don't make any assumptions. Like until you start hearing people, because the same thing, like you ask them questions and they start talking, you're like, oh my gosh, you know, you're doing all of that. And you wouldn't know unless you have really great conversations.
And I think that's what it boils down to. Have fun with it, guys. Nobody's going to be there. Everybody's going to be nice. Just like I said earlier, just be your genuine self and give back. And one thing that our coach always told us about, if there's one thing that you feel like you're an expert on, is go there and just share. Be a generous expert. Sorry.
And genuine. You want to be genuine too.
But that's the whole point of it, is just share what you're there to share, what your gift is, right?
Yeah.
And hear what other people have too. And sometimes you'll link up and say, hey, I'm doing the same thing, let's connect, or I'm looking to get into that, or whatever that is.
And think back to your job, because I remember too, I was like the shyest girl. Like I hated giving presentations in school, but then I went to college to become a teacher, and then they started putting me in front of a room, and I'm like, well, I better get over this fear real quick, right? And you know, it's easier to talk to kids than adults. Which is it? I don't know. But I think, you know, if you just prepare yourself, and then you're like Joe said, you be yourself, be authentic, and just like, don't try to ever be something you're not. And like, I don't quite understand the whole imposter syndrome thing, because I just think if you just show up as you and like, hey, I'm learning, you know, I'll share what I'm learning so far. And if I can help you, great. And if you can help me, awesome. But like, I am here to learn and I'm here to give, and let's go.
All right. And I was working at a car dealership, so I met strangers every day. That's just part of what it was. So meeting new people and having conversations with them. What I learned from that job was just by talking with people, it's fascinating who people are and some of the things that they've got going on. And I became like, it's like a story. You get to hear about them. And to me, that just is like one of the coolest gifts of life, is just finding out what makes these people tick and learning about them. And it's pretty awesome. So
yeah, I mean, because no offense, but like finance and a car dealership sounds kind of boring, but you somehow found a way to like every day, like, babe, guess who I just met? This person used to work with Rachel Ray, or, oh my gosh, I just got to try these cotton candy grapes, or, you know, you meet like the most random people, or like you have the teary-eyed story of somebody who lost all of their savings, and, you know, like a life lesson that you would. Like,
I still remember this guy was in his 70s, and he's in the car dealership buying a new car, trading in his truck, because in 2008 when the market crashed, I don't know how he had his retirement or what, but the guy was an older guy, super tall. He's in my office, bawling, crying. He's like, because at my age, I'm like 73, I think he was, and he was saying how, because of what happened in the market, he's like, I have to downsize and not keep the truck I want to get something that's better on gas, and I have to go back to work. And these are the years where I thought I was going to be able to enjoy and travel and retire, and now I have to have a job. in order to just survive. So when I saw that, that's one of the triggering moments in my head where I'm like, check, like I'm not going to forget that memory. And this is what's going to help me push forward. Because when I'm 70 years old, I don't want to have to look at Jen and be like, hey, hon, like we got to go pick up, part-time jobs. I want to be able to work hard now while I'm healthy, I'm young, we have the time to do it, the energy to do it, and put that time in now, because I know when we're at the point where, and I don't know if I'll ever want to hang it up.
You're going to be like Ron, who's like 80, still taking notes in the back of the mastermind.
I don't think I'll want to stop.
Still doing live videos.
Yeah, so I don't think I'll ever want to stop. But
I don't see myself doing like nothing either. But
I'd be so
maybe
bored.
like writing books on a beach or something.
So my wife can attest, guys. If I'm sitting on the beach, like I cannot.
You can't sit
there. I have to be doing something, and it has to be. I just can't sit still. So
yeah,
I love doing this. So I think it's really cool to be able to do this for a living now, full time. Come here on a Tuesday afternoon and talk to you guys about it. Talk about how we got here, and it was just all one step at a time.
Yeah,
it didn't just happen as great as it looks. It took a lot of
blood,
sweat, and tears. All of those three things happened, and then some. Many times where we just thought we'd throw in the towel. And I forgot where I read this. It was like, you're not an entrepreneur if you don't at least think about like just tearing everything down and working at McDonald's once a week. Like you're not truly an entrepreneur. And so the one time she was like, well, I'm like, we're just going to stop and go work at McDonald's. Mm-hmm. And now you're like, wait a second. Right. So that's a normal feeling to have. So if you have these,
especially that first year, it's like 2020, like how many times, like, what do you want me to go back to work? I'm like, what do you want me to go back to school teaching? Cause it was difficult, that transaction plus COVID, wasn't going anywhere in New York.
And it was all cold, so we weren't even going outside. We were stuck in the house, right? And so,
but once we got through the rocky part, like the middle is messy, but then like outside the middle, it's like, okay, like we can do this. One foot in front of the other. But then also knowing like it's constantly changing. You had to remind me the other day, like we're a business. We're going to be evolving, changing. Like no 2 days are ever the same. We're going to be changing processes and onboarding new people and letting go of other people. Like it is what it is. And, at the same time, you can't assume that like you would have always had that car job.
Yeah. I think if you are self-employed, you're going to be always tinkering your business to always be more efficient, be more profitable, right? All of the things. You're always going to be watching every little thing you're doing. And can I make this better? How can I eliminate things, right? So that's why I think it's important to understand it's an ever-growing process. And no matter how great you're doing, do you want to do better? Right? And so we do. And so that's why we do what we do. But I love it. I think it's pretty cool that I get to do it with her. Because this was our group.
There's its moments where you're like, what the heck? But overall, yeah, it's awesome.
When did those moments happen, dear?
Well, I don't know, like non-paying tenants.
Happens.
That we on purpose inherited, but we're working on it.
Oh boy.
But yeah.
That's for
another day. But when you are in a group of people that are also experiencing stuff like that, it makes you just feel like, okay, I'm not alone, because real estate investing can be a little isolating, because if I love my mom, right? She'll listen to me, whatever I'm talking about, but like she can't really help me through a situation because she hasn't dealt with a non-paying tenant or whatever other crises of the day might be, right? But she's there to lend an ear, but being around other people, like, oh yeah, you'll be fine. You just need to do this, this, and that. And you're like, oh, okay. Like that's the benefit, is being around people, like-minded people that have already kind of gone through it, have been in the trenches, maybe are still in the trenches, and can help you. Like I had some aha moments at the past retreat I just went to, and it was really how to, like I have virtual assistants, I have an executive assistant, but how do we all communicate day in and day out without like constantly talking all day long? Because, sometimes there's times where as a business owner, you need to be focused on other things. And so I was given some really great strategies to implement, and I'm really excited to unravel those and just kind of like get things a little bit more streamlined. So I didn't have all the answers when I hired my first virtual assistant, we hired our first acquisitionist, when we hired a dispositionist, when we started doing this, but you grow and you get around the right people and you learn that it's okay to maybe make a mistake, because I don't even know if it is a mistake if you're just learning, and you just be better every day.
Yeah. And I think that's been the case for us, because once we are around the right people who could give us the right advice, they've already been through some of these things. It takes a lot of the thinking and figuring out of it. Mm-hmm. Find people who are ultra successful at doing what you're trying to accomplish. And part of paying to play is where I could run a scenario or a question by my coach. And instead of me trying to figure it out and maybe have the chance of not even doing it right, he could just give us the quick, easy answer. I'm like, oh my God, that makes all the sense in the world. Okay, for now on, we're just going to do that. So when
otherwise you sit there and agonize over, like, is this the right choice? I don't know. Should I have done this? But if you hear somebody who's already had that experience, like past you, and you're like, okay, that's fine. Next. Because that brain, like clutter, the decision fatigue is such a real thing. I feel like.
My gosh, you're just burning brain calories, right? So when we meet,
not the right kind of calories.
No, but when we meet with our coach, we come with a list of questions and we write them down throughout the time where we don't meet. So when we do get on our call, I'm like, great, I've got 5 questions. These are things that came up where these are situations or scenarios, and I need to know how to handle this, how to address it. What should I do here? What would he do there? What would he recommend we do next? How do we continue to grow, right? And so these are the lessons that the feedback is what we need. So
that is so huge because that applies to coaching, mentoring, anything. Like if you just show up to calls with somebody and you don't have your game plan, like it's not going to go well. Like if you don't come like ready to rock, then you're not going to get much out of that call. And it's not fair to your coach either, because some of the most successful clients came with just rapid firing question. Okay, how do I execute this? What's going to happen now? How about this? Not the, well, what happens when and if. It's the actions that they're taking in between that are creating the questions that are being asked during the calls.
Yeah. So a lot of our clients and you were just saying, our most successful clients were ones who came with an agenda. They were actually doing the business, taking action, sometimes messy action. So when it was our time to meet with them, they had questions because they were doing it and they weren't making what if scenarios. They were just asking, okay, I've done this. What are the next steps I need to do? Or I did this and this went this way. What do I do? And so once you're just have somebody who could, get your feedback on what happened and then give you the next steps of what to do, that's what walks you down step by step of how to get to wherever you're going. And I think that is the key, is having that person, big brother, big sister, looking over your shoulder along that route was the reason why we go to masterminds and we hire a coach. And you're talking to a guy who never went to college because I didn't want to touch people and scare them.
And you're not somebody who like spends money like crazy. Like you're very like, you're more of the saver of the two, I would say. Like
out of us?
Yeah.
You think?
But when it comes to like having to, write a big check for some of these, like you're all in.
I spend on that stuff.
With all that said, like makes me think about, make sure you're interviewing these people. Don't just like go pay them, like actually set up interviews. There's been several times where we would meet with a couple potential mastermind groups or different coaching strategies. And we're just like trying to figure out, because it's like a book, but obviously this is more expensive, or you want to make sure it's the right fit at the right time and that it's going to actually help you. And some of these masterminds out there, they just might not be the right fit for where you are in your business at the moment. And so it's really important to really get to know the person, kind of get a feel for what they offer. Is it the right kind of venue that you're looking for, and who else is in there, and are they in your, like, we're not going to go join short-term rental mastermind because we don't do Airbnb.
Well, and this actually, I didn't even tell you, this happened to me this week.
Uh-oh.
I had somebody,
That's always good. We live.
We were on a couple podcasts. We were interviewed on Bigger Pockets, and I put my cell phone number out there. So from that, I have received thousands of calls and messages. Awesome stuff. Absolutely love connecting, as you could hear. However, I got a message just a couple days ago. Guy says, I saw that you guys were on Bigger Pockets and I'm new to real estate investing and I want to get started. Do you offer coaching? And I said, well, we do. What kind of real estate investing are you thinking of getting started with? And he says, I really want to get started with storage units. I said, sounds like it's a great spot to be in. I have some friends who are doing really well with that, but that's not what I do. Now, I'm not saying that you can't buy real storage units with seller financing, because that happens all of the time, but I'm not actively, and I've never bought one before. So I said, these are probably some people that you'd want to talk to who do that more, right? So what I mean by that is, if somebody reaches out to us and they say, Joe and Jen, do you offer coaching? And I say, yes, I do. And they say, well, good, I want to build skyscrapers. Go find, it's not us. I'm not a skyscraper builder, right? So for me, I want to buy a house.
Not yet, at least.
Well, but I want to buy creative finance, right? How to buy real estate. And it doesn't mean just single family homes. It could be multifamily. It could be commercial. We've had some of our clients do car washes. and things like that. And businesses you could do with creative finance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just single family homes. It could be many things, but that's what we prefer to do. So what you're mentioning is finding somebody who is doing what you want to do, who's already done that. And that's who you want to hook yourself to and talk to them about what that's like.
Does it align with your goals and your vision, your business strategies? Because there's amazing coaches out there and they're doing high level things, but it just might not be like what you're looking for. And I think that in this day and age where we're literally bombarded with YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of everybody doing all their things, super easy to get shiny object syndrome. It's super easy to compare yourself and get down on yourself about it. But if you start feeling kind of like jealous or like mad about it, like that's probably because you want what that person has. And then to get laser focus and see if you could learn from them, see if you can kind of help them in their team somehow. When we first got started, our team, we've said it before, Brittany was one of the first women we brought on the team that lived out of state. She's like, I'll work for you guys for free. We're like, no, we'll totally pay you. But like, she was that dedicated to learn what we're doing because we weren't offering coaching yet at that time. This was back in 2020, late 2020. And she was just all in. And so because she wasn't like, hey, can I pick your brain? Or, just trying to like get things for free. Because let me tell you, that just comes off the wrong way. When you come off like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Give me something. That turns people off, especially people who have big hearts and like have no time. So like, how do you help other people? Because every time that you can give, like Joe said, you're going to get, I promise you.
Well, that was the thing with Brittany. I think that's probably why she's so amazingly successful, because she came to give. I want to learn. I'm going to help you. And so because of that, we made a bunch of money together. A bunch of money, and it's still happening to this day. And now
she's giving back every Wednesday. I think she's changed it. She's doing like a lunch and learn on Instagram. So guys, there's no excuses. There's plenty of people out there. You just got to get around them, find them.
And it's never been easier to communicate with other humans in the history of humans, because now with social media, and I mean, I know Facebook went down for an hour today and half the world freaked out. It went back and like
I was literally in the middle of my support call talking about like how to market on Facebook, and they're all like, Facebook's down. I'm like, what? Well, okay, let's talk about how to get leads another way, right? No excuses, you pivot. So that was kind of funny. But, and in that call, it was, what's great about that, when you're in a room, you can be a little bit vulnerable. And one of my clients opened up and he's like, I'm a realtor, but I also want to be an investor. And I'm like, am I giving mixed messages? And my answer was like, whatever you want to be that. So if you are a realtor and you're an investor, tell everybody that and how they can be helped by you. And the more honest you are and you make it super clear and you 10x that message, because you can't make one Facebook post or go live one time and expect everybody's going to remember that. Right? Like people kind of laugh like, oh, you and Joe are like all over. I'm like, well, it's for a reason, because like we know that these things everybody's on all day, like people are paying ads. There's all these other people on there. Like there's so many users, like you get lost. So if you want to be heard, AKA, if you want to buy real estate, you got to be loud, loud, loud.
And have fun with it, guys.
Yeah.
It's not that serious. It's not that hard. I mean, we take it serious, but it's not like it's, I don't know.
Serious when you need to be. Yeah.
My grandfather came to America from Italy, couldn't speak the language in his 20s. He was 20 something years old, guys. And this was like in the late 1940s, where he was a mason, having to work like 10-hour days, like lifting heavy blocks and doing like, that's work. Like I sit on a phone, like my grandfather saw what I did for a living, right? But it's work smarter. I get it. But, to me, that was hard work back what they had to endure. For me to be able to sit on the phone out back next to the pool, it's really not that hard, guys, what we're doing. It takes some time, takes some effort, but we're not, chipping cinder blocks.
And it doesn't have to take 10 years. I mean, from where you maybe eventually want to go, like if it's like a millions of dollar beach house, then that's going to take, some time. But literally you get really honed in on some of these skills, you can walk away from a job that you hate in a less time than you probably realize, but you have to get laser focused.
Even if you just like your job, but you're just sick of it, that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I still liked my job, but if I had the opportunity,
I hated your time.
If I had the opportunity to go leave and to go do what I'm doing now, I just wish I did this way sooner. But it wasn't like I had this horrible job that I hated. I actually enjoyed it. I just got a raise right before COVID happened. So
I didn't hate my job teaching either, but I didn't like the commute.
Commute was terrible.
And the hours were just kind of wonky because I was out the door early and then home early.
So, all right, we got time for a few questions.
Yeah, we've had a couple pop in through Instagram too. So this one was basically, how do you find a supportive spouse? Well, I don't know how you find one. You just got to go out there and date people until you find what it is you're looking. But you have to write it down, right? Like, what is your ideal candidate, and then what is that person gonna possess? Like for me, I literally said to him, like the first time we were messaging back and forth, I was like, hope I'm not inserting foot in my mouth, but really can't stand when somebody's unmotivated. Like I really like, type A driven people. And he's like,
I was like, ha,
joke's on me, folks.
put you to work, girl.
But, as far as like getting me on board with real estate, it took some time, again, sharing the vision, giving me tasks that I could do, like paying bills, helping keep tenants organized, prepping for taxes. And then eventually, realizing, holy cow, like this is a business. I got to actually like take all these calls to tenant buyers. So really making me be a part of it.
So to answer your question, one small step at a time. You're not going to get all overnight, but just one small step at a time. Next thing you know, it happens.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's a random question from Ray. If I take over the loan, how do I benefit from property tax deduction when the loan is not due under my name?
So you're still getting, your seller will still get the form from the mortgage company showing how much was paid in interest that past year. You own the property. You are the one making the payments. You're the one that are going to benefit from that tax write-off. So what we do is we have our tenants forward us that form and our accountant writes that off. Even better, you have their login and you just download it and send it to your CPA. That works good too. Boom. He doesn't do that part, really. Is there a limit of how many houses? Hey, Alex, I haven't seen you in a while. Is there a limit to how many houses you can hold? Nope. That's the greatest part. I mean, unless you buy all of them, then I guess that'd be the limit. But yeah, save some for us. Yeah. Abundance mindset, but don't buy them all. Okay. What would you say the biggest external obstacle is? I'm assuming knowledge. If so, is it laws, regulations, etc.? It's 100% knowledge is the biggest obstacle, is just knowing the right strategies. And then once you know the right strategies by people who've already laid down and have done these things, I think that was the biggest obstacle, because when I first got started in real estate, I didn't know you could wholesale houses. I didn't know there was things like seller financing or creative finance. I didn't know many of these things even existed. I thought you had to either pay cash for a house and save up forever, or you had to go get a loan from a bank. None of these things are needed, right? So I thought weirdos were like landlords. Right. Maybe I'm right. Gotcha. But that's where I would say the biggest obstacle is lack of knowledge, not knowing the right strategies of how to do it. And once you do, then I think the next one is just execution. So many times people will spend time learning how to do it, but they don't ever put the car in gear to go forward. They just sit there in neutral or park and don't go anywhere once they've received the knowledge. So part of it is you got to learn the right strategies. But rule number 2 is just as important. You got to put the car in drive and actually go. And that's how you get there. Yeah, I like how you said external obstacle, because I think more than anything, it's an internal obstacle. And that's just belief that you can even do it. Yep. Great question. Yeah, parents are fun too when you're teaching. So luckily, if you're just the teacher and the parent, it's... Well, yeah, because when you had to deal with parents of... My daughter failed your class and you still need to pass her so she can cheerlead. How about no? Okay. This is actually Mike's question. I don't know why it's not showing on here. I gotta have Abby look at that. But Mike, hello. Question about the blue ad, posting into groups. Awesome that you're doing that. I am looking at about 7 counties around me. Each county has 4 to 5 yard sale type Facebook groups or information groups. Sounds like a math question. How should I schedule posting for different groups? Should I hit all groups at the same time? Should I rotate between counties? Should I hit... I'm not even going to finish the question. I'm going to say you're a little overthinking it a little bit, and you just need to start posting. Yeah. So for me, I like to post in the morning. Yep. Or afternoon, or even evening. But I prefer morning overall, because I think that gives more time people look at it. You do it late at night, there might not be as many people looking at it right away. So I like to post mine in the morning, 3, 4, 5 groups. And it's all the different ones. And it's not just buy and sell groups. There might be community groups. I love that county group, town groups, county groups. I mean, all the small little ones too. Farmers only type, groups where there's dating, locals, whatever, because maybe they sold their house because they fell in love.
They might. Yeah, that happened to us. But the point being is, here's the trick, guys. If the ads aren't working for you, what does your Facebook page look like? When's the last time you went on your personal page and broadcasted to the world, like, hey, everybody, like, I'm buying houses? And I'm not saying just posting the blue ad. Like, there's a picture of yourself. There's a picture of a house. There's you walking a property. Like, even if you haven't bought a property yet, you can still use some images and use your words and go live and tell everybody what it is you're doing. And so this free method doesn't work well if you don't have an active page. It's just that simple.
Yeah, so because you think these people, they're going to check you out, right? They're going to click on your page, and what are they going to see? Are they going to see, like, I want to definitely do business with this person, or absolutely not, based on what they see?
Yes. What about making a business of finding beautiful rural properties for the mastermind getaways? I mean, there's a business for everything. Absolutely.
Sure.
I know, we want to have one down here because it's so beautiful. How often should you post in the same group, targeting specific communities and keeping coming across the same groups?
So great question, Ahmad. I just had one. I posted mine this morning, actually, in one group. I put my name in the group. I went to the group on Facebook. I put my name in the little search bar, and it was like, here's all the stuff Joe Delafave posted inside this group. And then I was like, there's the last time I posted in this group, and it was like January sometime. Well, plopped it back in there today, got 2 leads.
Boom.
And now I haven't checked it, and Facebook was off too, so go figure that. So
yeah.
Maybe there's more waiting for me.
So find a property in Bradenton, Florida. Hit us up, y'all.
Yep.
Referral fee incoming. But yeah, the last question I saw over here was, do you mind repeating the name of the book? I don't know if it was Think and Grow Rich.
100 Ways to Motivate Yourself by Steve Chandler. You could go right on YouTube and just listen to the audio read by the author. And it is awesome. You're going to have to get used to his voice, though.
Yeah, but I love what you said, too. Like, you can listen to us, and we love that you're here and asking these questions. But if you're not taking the messy, uncomfortable action and doing the thing, you're never going to get the why achieved, the goal. So set your commitment of what you're going to do. Set your goal, that target. Like, it would be great if I could. But no excuses. Join around people that you can see that are doing what you want to do. Pay to play, whatever you can afford. See how you can give back to other people. And guys, just do it. Just like Nike.
And I'm going to leave a win today.
Oh,
I'm going to leave a win for everybody.
Yay.
I'm going to actually give you guys some action, a win for you. Okay, if you haven't already gone to our website yet, creativefinanceplaybook.com. What is that again? creativefinanceplaybook.com. And you could download our opening script for free. So when we do have sellers reach out to us, these are the 10 questions that we ask a seller. So what are the questions that we ask, our team asks? You can go download it for free right on our website. And then we talk about how to generate off-market leads for free by using Facebook groups, guys. So once again, if you could generate leads for free by using Facebook groups without having to pay, and with our script, it actually asks 10 questions, but the way it does, it actually has the seller make us the offer too. So there's many times where you could just message the script back and forth with somebody in the DMs. And then once they give you the feedback, you might have a deal just sitting on your lap, guys. And we've had folks with multi-million-dollar properties down to the little, trap house next door, all reach out on these Facebook posts. So it works for the high-end stuff and anything else in between. So just take these times to post these posts. Use that opening script like we talked about. Download that thing for free, creativefinanceplaybook.com. Thank you so much. And go get that script, guys, and then go put it to work. So there's zero excuses why one or two things can happen. You're going to be talking to leads. You're going to be asking them the right questions, and hopefully you get some deals out of it. And so that's the win today. Go take some of that action, get some of those results, and then get yourself some coaching if you like some of how that went on that. And if you're ever thinking of taking your game to the next level, reach out, and we'd also love to talk to you about that too.
Absolutely. That is all we got going on.
Yeah, I see we got a shout out, like the script. Awesome. I will tell you, it works so much simpler because of the fact is it's a straight line approach. We just ask 10 questions, collect the information, now go look at it. There's even rebuttals, and we actually have help doing this for us. And I mean, we get all those questions answered a high percentage of the time because they're simple questions.
We should test it. We should have Brooke run it. Like sit next to her and have her, like when a lead comes in,
have our daughter do
on
it
a weekend when virtual assistant's not working, or like at night.
I love that idea.
Let's do that. Yeah, let's see how that. I mean, because we tried to make it like so simple because there were roadmaps that we were trying to follow before, and I would be in tears trying to follow. Like, if seller says yes, then no, and I was like, I don't even know.
If the seller says yes, go to page 6. If the seller says no, go to page 72. And I'm like, what is this? So that's when we found this system out. It works amazing. So.
Wow, Zach, thanks for sharing that too. The blue post works. As a realtor, I've landed 2 listings for my first. So there you go. We're realtors too. So
get that money, y'all.
Messy action, helping others, and we are going to be live again next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, with something amazing. I'm totally blanking.
You just can't look.
I need to work on the ending here.
Great job.
This is real. Messy, massive action. But come back, guys, because we're here for you every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And there's always more to learn. So I hope you're all having a great day and go take that action.
Go get it, guys.
Awesome. We'll see you guys later.
See ya.